Authenticity isn't a nice to have in leadership. It's a non-negotiable. In a world full of facades, only your truth is the boldest move you can make. Welcome to the Danni Vee Show, the podcast for high-performing business owners, leaders, and entrepreneurs ready to lead with elegance, courage, and radical responsibility. I'm Danni Vee, and I'm here to help you strip away the fluff and step fully into your power at the boardroom and in business. In each episode, we'll share no-nonsense insights and real conversations on what it takes to show up authentically, make tough decisions with grace, and create impact at the highest levels. So if you're ready to own your voice and lead on your terms, you're in the right place. So let's dive in. Welcome back to the Danni Vee Show. Today's conversation is one I know so many of you will feel in your body before you even fully process it. Today, I'm joined by the incredible Dr. Hayley Quinn. She is a former clinical psychologist, speaker, author of From Self-Neglect to Self-Compassion. For a deeply honest conversation about burnout, boundaries, and the quiet ways capable women disconnect from themselves while still appearing fine on the outside, Hayley's work sits at the intersection of psychology, lived experience, and sustainable well-being. She speaks openly about self-neglect not as a failure, but as a learned pattern, especially for high-functioning women, leaders, and business owners who have been praised for coping, pushing through, and putting themselves last. This isn't a conversation about doing more self-care or adding another thing to the to-do list. It's about understanding the psychology behind why self-compassion feels so hard, how burnout actually forms beneath the surface, and what it looks like to come back to yourself in a way that's practical, grounded, and real. If you've ever felt exhausted despite being capable, if you've told yourself you'll rest after the next milestone, or if a part of you knows something needs to change but you're not sure where to start, this episode is for you. So let's dive in. Welcome to the Danni Vee Show, Dr. Hayley. It is so wonderful to have you here. I thought that we definitely need to call you Dr. Hayley, not Hayley, because you are a wonderful psychologist that needs to be recognized. It is just such an honor to have you here. Thank you for coming on the podcast.
Thank you so much. And I must just say, because of APRA rules, I'm actually a former clinical psychologist. I'm not, even though I am qualified and worked for many, many years as a psychologist, I'm not allowed to call myself a psychologist anymore.
Okay, well, that's very good to know. And I do know about those rules. So very, very well played out. So I'd love to dive straight in, if that's okay, Hayley, in what you describe. You describe self-neglect for high-functioning women to be able to realize what it actually looks like in their real life. So you're talking about like it's more about self-compassion and stepping into that. What does self-neglect look like in real life? And I'm really excited to hear this because I actually just ran a masterclass for women's in business membership about self-belief. So I want to hear what this self-neglect is for you.
Yeah. And look, I think it can look quite different. And it's a term we don't really use. I think we don't really use the term self-neglect, but it can be from little things of just not paying attention to how you're feeling, or, you know, particularly as kind of mainly women tend to do the caretaking, as we know, but perhaps getting everything ready for your children, packing their lunches, or maybe even packing your partner's lunch as well if you have a partner, then getting to lunchtime and realizing you don't have lunch for yourself. So you've been everybody else, but you don't think about yourself. Or perhaps you're putting off some of the things that you want to do, whether that's just going to yoga class or going out for a walk, or perhaps a bigger goal that's in your business or a dream that you've got for your life. And you're putting that aside because you are so focused on everybody else. I think as women, we're very socialized from a very, very young age to think about the other first, what somebody else need. And unfortunately, if we don't change that narrative, it plays out throughout life, and we have women in their 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s and beyond who are still prioritizing the needs of other people and not thinking about themselves and their own needs. It could be, you know, you're taking everybody else to the health appointments, but you keep putting off going to the health appointment that you need to go to. So it can be something very small, or it can be right through to the bigger things that we need to be doing as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I speak a lot about self-abandonment, and it's kind of like, I guess, the same meaning of what you're saying is that, you abandon yourself to serve everybody else because that's what we've been taught. And then even in like business and leadership as well, like really you shift that into serving everybody else as a leader, and then you actually lead from burnout. So yeah, thank you so much for sharing. And so you have a very exciting announcement to make. You've got your book launching, which is so exciting. It's called From Self-Neglect to Self-Compassion. And you talk about compassion being a skill. And I absolutely love this, Hayley, because I believe even being confident is a skill. Like all of those really positive emotions is a skill. Could you give more of a distinction of how important this is and how it is a skill?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, for me, embodying compassion in my life has been absolutely life changing, both personally and professionally.
Mm.
And whilst the title is From Self Neglect to Self Compassion, I do talk about the three flows of compassion in the book. So we've got compassion from ourselves to others, which many, many people are great at,
Yeah.
especially women. Then we have self compassion, which people can struggle with, but we also have receiving compassion from others. And that can be another
Mm.
really struggle. So they can develop this kind of self compassionate relationship, but still struggle to receive compassion from other people. I had a very toxic, very critical relationship with myself growing up and well into my adulthood. And I was fortunate as a psychologist to do training in compassion focused therapy and
Oh, that sounds fun. Yeah.
very grateful to Professor Paul Gilbert, who was the developer of compassion focused therapy. And it very much is a framework that as a therapist, you have to embody so that you can use it well with your clients. And the beauty of that is you have to embody it. So
Mhm.
you end up useful, embodied, compassionate relationship. And it really then changes how we engage with ourselves, the way we can access our own wisdom, the influence it has on our decision making and what sort of things are motivating our decisions, as well as how we interact with other people, both in how we're treating other people and how we're allowing other people to treat us as well. And this is all stuff that it is a practice. It's an ongoing practice. I first started learning about compassion focused therapy, I think in 13.
Mm.
What's that? 13 years ago
Few
now.
years ago, yeah.
And I'm still in an ongoing practice of being in relationship with myself and coming back to a compassionate motivation in my life. So it's not something we just kind of learn, it's one and done. It is an ongoing practice because we change, our life context changes. So it's something that we need to just keep engaged with.
And then I guess through that lens, why do you think it's so difficult for intelligent, capable women to actually extend this compassion to themselves?
I think the short answer to that is because we've not been told we should do that.
So true.
Because we've been told that we're here for the needs of everybody else and that we
Mm.
should take care of everybody else. So, I mean, that is the short answer. We live in a very patriarchal capitalist society that says, produce, perform, be there for others. Women have not really been told that they can use their voice, they can take up space, they can shine, they can acknowledge their own brilliance. You and I have been in the same rooms at times
Mhm.
with amazing, brilliant women. And there's so much self doubt and so much imposter syndrome and so much hesitation, I think, for women to actually own who they are and acknowledge the skills and qualities they've got, and also know that it's okay for them to take up space and have what they want and need.
Mhm.
There's more conversations starting. I think the whole kind of conversations around perimenopause and menopause, there's a lot more conversations around women starting to say, hang on a minute, is this the only way life can be? And realizing it's not. So I think there's so much societal pressure for women to be a particular way. But like I say, the short answer is we just haven't been told it's okay to do that. And
Yeah.
I'm here to say it is okay.
Yeah, I really love that. And I guess like how you keep on referring back to, it's what we've been told, it's what our mothers have been told, it's what our grandmothers have been told. It's like a really DNA lineage part of us, isn't it? That is like it's time to undo that and restructure it and reframe it to be something different. So was there a time in your life where that line in the sand actually happened where you're just like, this is enough. Like, I actually do need to create this self-compassion for myself and be able to receive it as well?
Yeah, so I would say multiple times, to be honest. One of the most significant for me was I had struggled with mental health issues. I was late identified as autistic ADHD at age 52. Would have been really handy to know that earlier in life, but here we are.
Here we are.
Due to that and not understanding myself and not understanding how I fit, or didn't fit into the world, that created a lot of mental health issues for me. And also, I ended up in relationships that were really not healthy. I got to a point where I'd moved over to Australia. I'd met somebody. I got married. I had my son. And unfortunately, I found myself in a domestic violence relationship. And the day that I actively chose to walk away from that was, on reflection, I talk about this briefly in the book. On reflection, it was really about my son's safety and well-being.
I've done the same.
Yeah, but I also look back and think, that was the time for me, a big pivotal moment for me where it was like, I can't keep getting into relationships that don't serve me. I can't keep living my life like this. So when I then went on to, because I went back to university as a single parent, and it was really when I started doing my learning in CFT. I
Mhm.
guess I'd had small times where I was starting to make different choices, but it was really that learning in my psychology degree, compassion focused therapy particularly, that really shifted. I always say I'm so grateful to Paul because he really showed me that there's a different way you can be with yourself.
Mhm.
And I love that. And being autistic, became my special interest. So I kind of deep dive, learned lots of stuff, embodied it. I was training other people. And I was not only seeing the difference in my life, but I was seeing the difference in the lives of the psychologists I was training and the clients I was working with. And it just grew from there.
Yeah.
Just knowing now the relationship I have with myself and comparing it to what it was, I'm just like, wow, why would I not keep doing this? My
Yeah.
life is so much better.
I couldn't agree with you more. I do a very similar process with my embody framework. So, I call it embodiment as what you're calling self-compassion. And it actually is so groundbreaking in the sense that once you are in that embodiment, the people around you shift and change as well. So you don't even have to actually speak about it or train people or do that type of thing because of the energy that you're giving out. It allows other people to be like that too. And I love how you're speaking about that in exactly the same concept as that. And like I was saying before, I speak a lot about self abandonment, which I think is very similar to your self neglect. And what would you say to people that are using the behavior of responsibility, being responsible, and I'm just being responsible, I'm just doing what I need to do, but it actually is self abandonment? What advice could you give them today?
Well, I think first of all, it's about radical honesty with yourself.
Radical responsibility. Yes.
Like being really honest with yourself about what is motivating this behavior. And it could be that somebody has never known any different and they really do believe that the purpose of them being here is to take care of other people.
Yeah.
And I would say, perhaps it's not. And perhaps there is another way, and you could start to get curious about that. But
Yes.
also not to shame yourself. We behave the way we behave because at some point in our life, that has been really helpful and really protective. So this is not about shaming people for the way they
So
engage in.
important.
And sorry, my ADHD brain's like, oh, hang on, there was another bit to that question, and it's dropped out of my head. How can we?
So when the people that justify being responsible, so they're saying, I'm just being responsible, I'm just doing the thing, but they're actually abandoning themselves by doing that. And I think you did answer it in the way that, people want to be there for others, where actually you challenge them and say, maybe there's another way.
But also, I would say the second piece to that is, are you using that as a reason to avoid yourself?
Oh my goodness. Can you say that again? Say it again. Oh my
Well,
goodness.
are you using being there for other people and being responsible for everybody else as a reason to avoid yourself?
Oh,
I say that because I lived that. I didn't want to go anywhere near me. I couldn't stand myself. I didn't want to be alone with myself. I didn't like the thoughts that I had. I didn't like the feelings I had. So I thought, well, if I avoid all that, I'll avoid the pain. But unfortunately, what happened for me and what happens for many people is we create a different kind of pain. We start making decisions that actually are not in alignment with us, that don't serve who we are or what our neurotype might be. And we end up in pain and suffering anyway.
And you don't even lose who you are, so you lose your identity. It's such an identity piece, self-neglect and self-abandonment, because you don't actually be who you truly are. So that alignment's not there, and you keep searching for this external gift that never comes, I guess is the best way to describe it. So yeah, that's really interesting. And I work with a lot of women that they say, I just don't have time for myself. That's how they start out. I don't have time for myself. Time is always such a barrier or limiting belief for women. And I find that, they still have time, and a bit, especially these days, to doom scroll on their phone for an hour and compare themselves to everybody and get sad about that. Or they have time, like you said, to serve everybody else, but they don't make even just 10 minutes for themselves. What do you think is actually underneath that belief?
Again, lots of things. I think depending on your own family of origin,
Yes.
the stories, the beliefs, the expectations that have been put on you as an individual. Also, that societal piece for women in general, that, we're not here for ourselves, we're here to serve other people. But also that there can be a lot of stuff around how much do you value you and your well-being? And if we don't value that, we're not going to prioritize it. I know for me, I didn't. Although I might have looked like I was doing stuff, I had very obsessive gym kind of habits and things. So it might have looked like I was going and working out and taking care of myself, but that was actually quite punishing. It was quite obsessive. It was linked to eating disorders. We can look like we're doing things that are helpful that actually are motivated by things that are very threat-based.
Mm-hmm.
So again, when I work with people, very much is tailored to, whilst we have lots of similarities as human beings, we are all very unique individuals.
Absolutely.
And it's about really getting to know yourself. And in the book, there's lots of reflective questions that is about understanding what it means to be a human with a tricky mind, but also understanding what it means to be you as an individual and why you make the choices you make or why you behave in certain ways. And hopefully, and I believe I've done this well, in a way that is very non-shaming and very supportive, because we need to understand ourselves so we can change that relationship with ourselves and then change the way we're operating in the world or in relationship with other people or whatever it is that we want to change.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that you have those reflection questions in your book. And for those of you that do go and buy Hayley's book, take the time to stop and do those questions. Because just reading through it, yes, you will get a little something out of it anyway. But if you stop and do those questions, and getting to know yourself can be quite tricky sometimes, especially if you avoid feeling your feelings and you avoid yourself, like you said, it can be quite a confronting a process, but at the same time, it is the most exciting, rewarding process as well, getting to know who you truly are. So taking the time to do those reflection questions, I strongly recommend that you do. And Hayley, I work a lot with leaders and business owners and like high end business owners. And we've spoken a lot about how it shows up in your well-being and serving yourself and serving others. How does it show up in leadership? How does it show up as a CEO of a company when you're using self-compassion?
Well, again, I think, when we think about the 3 flows of compassion and not just self-compassion, but when we think about it, you mentioned this a little bit before, we can model being a certain way. If we want to run a team who are actually going to flourish and thrive and take care of themselves, then if we're modeling taking care of ourselves, if we're modeling being self-compassionate, if we're
Absolutely.
modeling taking breaks and actually working in a way that's sustainable, that gives permission for people watching us to do the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
If we can really come from a lens of compassion, we can also see people differently. We are less likely to, and this isn't to say this is going to be perfect all the time, but we are less likely to get frustrated with somebody else if they're doing a certain thing, if we can actually come from a compassionate place and ask ourselves, what is it that's motivating their behavior?
Absolutely. Yes.
What perhaps do they need in terms of support or scaffolding so that they can do the job they want to do? We're learning much more as the years go on now about neurodivergence in women and girls, which has been missed for many decades. And if leaders can pay attention to perhaps this person has a particular neurotype and needs to work in a particular way, then their productivity is going to increase.
Yeah.
That's going to be better it's going to be better for them because they're working in a way that isn't going to burn them out. But it's also going to be better for the business because they're going to be more productive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that communication and language is such a key piece as a leader, isn't it? Like understanding that person in front of you and taking the time to really learn how to communicate in that way. So not everybody's the same, and you've touched on this so many times, and you and I are very similar in the way that we work with people. Is like every person is different. So you can say, yeah, this is my framework. You've got the 3 stages of flow for the self-compassion. I've got my body framework. But at the same time, my body framework, if I worked with you, would be completely different if I worked with the next person, because you're both different people. And especially like bringing in the neurodivergent as well creates an even, greater difference as well, because people receive the information differently. I just
Absolutely.
love that so much. And something else that you've been touching on, and I think that we need to revisit because it is such a deep conversation about getting to know yourself, is really not shaming yourself when you're going through this process. And it's just ringing true for me for this masterclass I just ran before, is just there's no judgment for where you are, because you are where you are because that's what your body and your nervous system is safe with. So that's okay. And actually be really grateful for that part of you and thank it, because then that makes it easier to become that true, authentic self of who you are too.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the other piece for leaders is that flow of compassion inwards as well, is knowing that they actually don't have to have
All
all
the
the answers.
answers.
They don't have to hold everything. And it's okay for them to receive compassion and support as well.
Yes. And as a business owner, because I know for myself, because, I've been in business for over 27 years, and I have been through so many seasons of feeling so lonely because I haven't felt like I could receive that compassion myself. It's just really hard to receive when you have to be in that dominant personality, especially as a female, growing your business and forgetting that feminine flow. So yeah, definitely. That's such great advice. Such great advice. So for all my listeners now, and for those of them that are really recognizing themselves in this conversation today, what would you give them as one step, like the first step that they can start moving towards more self-compassion?
Is just take a moment to check in with yourself and ask you, how am I? How am I feeling? Like, I start my morning before I do anything. I greet myself and ask
Mm,
myself, how are you? How did you sleep? What have you got on today? And what do you need to be able to do that in a way that's going to be taking care of?
Hayley. Yeah.
It's almost like if you've got a loved one in the house, you're going to check in with them. If you're sending your child off to school, how are you feeling? Is there anything you need? But we don't stop to ask ourselves that. So I've got into this practice of asking myself that first thing in the morning, which at first feels really weird, right? You're just having a cup of- And I also grew up, like, I was born in the 70s. I grew up with the saying, the first sign of madness is if you talk to yourself. You must be totally mad. I always talk to myself.
Me too.
I then check in regularly throughout the day. And I always say,
Yes.
particularly us neurodivergent folk, when you're starting a new practice, do things like put a reminder in your phone, set an alarm, you know, 10 o'clock, check in. How am I? I do it, you can do it for drinking water, I do it for all sorts of things. But really, that would be my tip, is actually start to get to know yourself. Just check in regularly, or even
Yeah.
just check in one time today. That
I
could be
really
enough.
love that, having that conversation with you and the checking in. So I actually start my days with 2 journaling prompts, Hayley. I sit down and I say to myself, who do I choose to be today? So that's setting the intention of whatever day it is. Like, so if I need to be kind to myself, I choose to be calm and present. If I've got a big day of work, I choose to be focused and consistent, whatever it is. If I'm speaking on stage, I choose to be inspiring and make a really positive impact, because that's what I'm really passionate about. So those types of things. And then the other one I say is I want. So what do I want from that day? So same thing, if I'm wanting to have a calm day, I want to feel relaxed, I want to feel present, and usually that's with my family. And then if I'm leading a workshop, I want to be present and focused on the people within that workshop, because you want to be able to give them as much as you can.
Yeah.
The reason I do that, and it's very similar to how you have that conversation with yourself, I love it so much, is because then throughout the day, if you feel that misalignment or you feel like you're going off the tangent for a bit, you check back in and go, no, who do I choose to be today? And then reinforce that.
Yeah. I will add the compassion piece does something a little bit different as well.
Yeah.
Is you be like, okay, I want to be a calm, loving parent today. And then, 5 minutes before you leave for
It
school, you're
flies
literally
out the window.
yelling over today. Compassion piece lets you check in and say, I did my best.
Mm,
Not a perfect person. I'm a human being first. And yes, I want to be a loving and kind parent always. And I know that I won't always be a loving and kind parent in the moments because
especially in the car for me.
there you go. So I think passion piece is, I want to remember to check in with myself, or I want to remember to give the best to my audience. And when I don't remember, or when I don't manage that, I can actually offer myself compassion and tell myself I did the best I could under the circumstances I'm in, with the skills and resources and the emotional regulation I had in that moment.
Yeah.
And okay.
Yeah. And I just love that so much. And that's another way that I look at other people, how you're talking about leaders and understanding where they are at the moment. Like they're doing the best they can with the resources that they have. And
Absolutely.
just even believing that deeply, you approach life so much differently. Oh, you're such a wise woman, Hayley. So tell me, well, tell my listeners, where can they find the book? We will have it in the show notes, but tell us a little bit about your book before you leave us today.
Yeah. Oh, well, I'm just a little in love with my book. The publication date was 5th of February, so it's all very new. So I'm still running on high. I'm seeing people share online that they've got the book and everything, and it's just warming my heart. You can go to my website, drhayleydquinn.com, and there's a link there. If you're within Australia, you can order a signed copy from me. Postage just means that sending it outside of Australia just isn't realistic. But there's also links on that same page. If you scroll down, you can order from online retailers, different ones around the world. So it is available worldwide. It will appear in bookstores soon. I'm not sure which one. And yeah, so basically I'll send you the link. You can put it in the show notes, but yeah, you can get it from your favorite retailer. Go ask your bookstore. It'll perhaps be available in some libraries, everywhere, everywhere,
Perfect. Thank you
everywhere.
so much. And thank you so much for gracing us with your presence today, Hayley, and giving so much great support and guidance for the women and leaders and the high achievers out there that, it's so important. Let's just be compassionate with ourselves and others and make this world a better place.
You're so welcome. Thank you so much for having me on.
You're so welcome. Thank